Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. Today we're going to talk about electronic or e-warfare and some of its potential and planned uses in the verse. So currently active in Star Citizen we have ship emissions, both IR infrared and EM electromagnetic, as well as visual CS or cross-section management. All of these affect your detectability as well as affecting targeting and missile locks. But a lot more is being added and implemented as well as being fleshed out right now. So firstly, let's talk about signatures. With the Hornet Tracker, Vanguard Sentinel and Herald, for example, all using detection and e-war, the signature system is expanding for more diverse gameplay. Every ship in the verse will output a signature. This is based on a variety of factors, components, usage, all of the equipped hardpoints, and missions will never be able to reach zero while a ship is powered. But with management of your equipment and environment, you will be able to have varying levels of stealth at the possible trade-off of firepower, armor, speed, or some other factor. So let's talk about the types of signatures that ships emit. IR or infrared. This is heat, normally generated by engines and the use of weapons and systems. Cooling systems and environment will affect the dispersion of heat, lowering or increasing this further. IR can be detected by IR cameras on ships, targeting sensors and heat-seeking missiles. EM or electromagnetic. Anything that consumes power generates an EM signature. Normally this is from systems like energy weapons, shields and power plants. EM is used by certain missile tracking systems as well as EMF detectors. Cross-section or CS. This is literally the visible section of your ship, and as such is detectable by standard radar. Basically, the larger your ship, the more visible it is, the more easier it is to detect. Hull modifications, specialised armours, and component removal can all contribute to lower CS. As too can the angle your ship is being viewed at. Unique ship signature. Each ship will have a one-of-a-kind identifier, like a VIN, a vehicle information number, or an ID plate. There will be ways in the verse to dampen these or even broadcast a false ID for a limited time. Environmental effects can heavily change what your sensors see, and whether the amount of noise involved will disrupt your IR, EM, or CS signatures, or even your USS. So basically, if you're near a sun producing a massive amount of radiation, you're going to get different IR readings. They're going to affect the IR signature of your ship, the EM signature of your ship, and that sort of thing. So it's not just about the management of your components or systems, it's also about the management of your environment. And there's a legality issue as well, so there will be minimum limits of legally acceptable emissions on ships, and players caught masking their signatures below a certain threshold may invite suspicion, if they can be detected at all, by the law. Why are you ninjaing around in that Hornet Ghost with your windows blacked out? I'm sorry, officer, I was planning on murdering some players and stealing all their delicious loots. Radar and scanning. This is how you're going to be detecting those signatures. Scanning is the gathering of data based on various signature outputs. Every ship has at least some basic scanning systems, to start with anyway. You can probably rip them out if you're crazy. Radar systems will be able to determine the range, angle and velocity of an object and display them to you if you have the right equipment installed. And you can again, with different systems, change operating modes for that scanners and radar, from omnidirectional to a more focused approach if you wish, to enable you to better detect targets in that focused area. And as I said earlier, environment will have massive effects on your scanners. Stars, asteroid fields and other phenomena will affect these scans. And there will be various modes and options with scanning. This mechanic will cause players to make decisions on what types of data and what uses they want to do with their radars, scanners, and ship emission management. You could scan a single signature type instead of a full spectrum, for example, to save time. So if you knew a Herald would have been operating out of an asteroid field, it might be better to scan a small area for his EM signatures, knowing that he's probably using a vast amount of power, and in reality, he's probably going to have a low IR if he's parked behind an asteroid and doesn't have his engines on. And you'll be able to scan your surroundings either passively or actively, and some ships can even have a dedicated radar officer for scanning and operating these systems, which could be quite interesting. Passive scanning. As the name suggests, this is the gathering of information in the surrounding area without the need to actively search for it. Like receiving radio signals, but not being tuned into any of them specifically, if you see what I mean. Any detected object in passive radar scanning range will show up as one of 4 contact states if your scanners are able to detect them, which we'll talk about in a moment. The passive scanners, just like most systems, will emit their own EM and IR signatures too, so some form of management of these systems while trying to remain undetected yourself can become a game of cat and mouse. I expect there will be lots of situations where you're hunting someone else down, they know you're nearby, you know they're nearby, and it's going to be whoever detects the other one effectively first without being detected themselves will be able to get the first strike on their target. That's going to make gameplay in stealth very, very intense and powerful. Active scanning will allow the acquisition of more targeted information, such as armor and shield numbers, as well as weapon information of the target, or attempt to reveal previously undetectable objects. There will always be ways with these systems to focus scans into a certain area or direction, and this will in turn provide more detailed results, but give you less range or less scope. The active scanner will also cause a ship's signature to be increased as it uses more power, so again, management of this system is important. So there are a variety of different contact states that the radar may or may not be able to see. Undetectable. The target's out of range or the ship's signature is below a detectable threshold. Uncertain contact. A contact that's within range but may or may not exist. It could be a ghost contact, it could be an asteroid, it could be some form of phenomena there. Or it might just be on the edge of the signature threshold. Unscanned target, a contact that is above the signature threshold and within radar range becomes a target. Its positional data is available, but no other data can currently be determined until you scan that target. And the scanned target. Once a target is scanned, all of the information that can be attained with the current level of installed scanner suite will be made available. And with these different contact states and objects appearing on radars, I expect that a dedicated officer looking at radar and scanning will have a lot of information there available, which they will need to shift through and see what is relevant and pertinent to any given situation. There will be components and equipment that will protect you from various types of scanning. So scan shielding, literally the protection of your ship from various sources of scans for various purposes, including smuggling or even just denial of information, not letting the enemy see your shield data, for example. Scan shielding can come in various forms. Hull modifications, so this is like alternative armor sets. Shields, literally shields that have scan shielding built into them. Scan shield components, so devices specifically for shielding an area of a craft. Or internal modifications, so modules that are installed aboard a ship to protect the ship from various types of E-war or to broadcast out different signals, that sort of jazz. So let's talk more about the offensive and defensive based E-war equipment you'll be able to use. Offensive based, so there's going to be a variety of offensive based E-war equipment and weapons that are planned to be implemented into the game. This type of weapon specialises and creates weaknesses in targets' defences and will give players control over targeting of their electronic attacks. EMPs, an instant disruption of the enemy. The target's power pipeline will be overloaded, which then forces a restart of their ship's computer. The more severe the hit, longer the ship will be down before it automatically reboots. Data spike missiles, these are quite cool. Almost like an electronic harpoon. You'll shoot them into an enemy ship, and that will provide a direct link to the target's computer, providing a window to attempt to shut down some of their systems like propulsion, weapons, shields, and cooling. This should provide especially useful for pilots hoping to capture their prey intact. And if you want to be capturing ships in the verse, data spike missiles may well be for you. Distortion. So we already have distortion weapons in the game in the form of sucker punch weapons, although they're not working as intended. Distortion will disrupt a target's power flow to their components. A hit will temporarily reduce the power plant's maximum output. Although power plants will eventually flush out the distortion, repeated hits in a short time can cause overloaded systems and halt the power plant's flow to components for a longer period of time. Signal intercept. This is the most passive form of electronic warfare. Signal intercept covers the basics of interfering with a target's communications or scanner systems. This includes tracking a target's signatures, intercepting, rerouting, scrambling outbound communications, or causing direct interference to radar and scanner systems. And there will be more specialist or other equipment available. Special equipment includes ship-mounted antenna systems and custom avionics modules to aid with storage, decryption and encryption of transmissions in local space. All of those offensive systems and electronic warfare measures I mentioned there will come in all forms of shapes and sizes. You're going to get modules, you're going to get weapons, you're going to get missiles that do all these different variety of tasks. Electronic warfare weapons can be exceptionally powerful and very useful tools in the verse, and as such there are defences to them, so let's go over some of those now. We've got the EM flares and heat shafts that we've already been using in Arena Commander, so these are able to be launched by pilots to hopefully either distract a missile, confuse a missile, or to tell the missile to go for the larger source of heat, or EM. Data chaffs are more specialised than this. This will allow pilots to guard against attacks to their communications and scanners, and when launched, it'll basically make the attacker have a much harder job at establishing or maintaining their target lock against the defender's systems. So there'll be decoy missiles as well. These are missiles that when fired will broadcast a variety of different signatures, and so heat, IR, as well as the license plates, the VIN, the identification numbers of a ship, so that on your radar they will appear as, oh, there's a Vandal glaive over there. But cross-section cannot be spoofed. So if you actually physically see these objects, you'll say, oh, it's a decoy missile. Even the defensive E-War countermeasures can be seen as tools. You could use those decoy missiles to trick and scare off opponents, as well as force them to come into a different direction and funnel them down. And you could cleverly use flares and chaffs for all sorts of reasons. So that's just a small section of some of the stuff you can do with electronic warfare. And as the game is still being developed, they're going to be adding more. Some of this might change. But looking forward, there is a lot going on. And if you want to get involved with e-warfare to some extent, a lot of ships will have interchangeable modules and systems that you can put on your ship to at least do some form of e-warfare. So that's some of what you're going to be able to do with electronic warfare, but certainly not all of it. Next time we will talk about hacking in the verse, but the e-war systems combined with the physics-based nature of the game will provide some really in-depth, interesting and clever combat, stealth, as well as skill-based gameplay mechanics. I am very much looking forward to trying to make a super stealth Cutlass Black or a Ghost Hornet, and trying out E-War in the Herald and the Vanguard. It's exciting times. Anyway guys, I hope that was informational or enjoyable at the very least. Please take care and I will see you in the verse.